What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with the MLB Power Rankings for Week 17. And now we're about 10 games removed from the All-Star break, and we'll see how teams are doing so far out of the break. But first, hit that subscribe button down below to be entered into our giveaway at 500 subscribers. Let's jump into the hitters of the week, and you have to put Austin Riley on this list after hitting having 5 straight games with a home run last week. And, you can see there he had 6 total home runs, 16 RBIs, and a 400 average. And, he was absolutely raking last week. Same with Freddie Freeman, though. His week probably went unnoticed because of what Austin Riley was doing. Almost hit 600 and on base percentage of .667. So if you don't know, he's getting on base every 2 out of 3 times in a game, and that's pretty good for baseball. And OPS almost at 2, 3 home runs, 7 RBIs. And, with him getting on base so much, he scored 13 total runs last week in 24 at bats. So he was pretty much guaranteed a run every other at bat. The pitchers of the week are some guys that you don't normally see on this list. Is you have Nick Pivetta, who pitched 6 innings last week against the A's and threw a no-hitter through those 6. And then he threw an inning in relief against the Mets on Sunday. And, you can see there 13 strikeouts and 7 innings pitched is pretty dominant. So I had to give him some credit. Then you have Luis Mendana for the A's, a young guy, gave up only 5 hits against a good Boston lineup and a good Houston lineup. In those 12 innings, it's pretty good. He got a win, 12 strikeouts. And, the real question is, where will he be traded in a few years when the A's are ready to get rid of him? The dogs of the week are the Angels. Last week, they were the duds of the week. Now they go from dogs to the week after going 5-1 this week, sweeping the Yankees and beating Pittsburgh 2-1. They're 51-49 overall. 8 games back in the AL West, 4 games back in the wild card. And this team still has an outside chance of making the playoffs. But what are they going to do this week? This is the big week that if they have another 5-1 week, then this team might be playing for that playoff push and possibly trade some pieces to try to get in the playoff. But their big question mark is Trout coming back. Ever since he's went down, this Angels team has not looked good up until this week. And, who knows? Maybe they're going to just hang on to Otani and just say, we're just going to ride it out and hope for the best. The duds of the week are the Tampa Bay Rays, a team I would have not thought to seen on this list once. 30 games through the season, after their ridiculous start. But now, after a very bad week, losing to Texas on the road and 3 of 4 at home against Baltimore, they're 2 games back in the AL East, but they do hold the top wildcard spot by 4.5 games. But at this point, it just kind of seemed like a disappointment just because of how big of the lead they had, how good of a team they had, and now they're finally falling flat on their face. So I think this team needs to go out and make a move, whether it is a bat or a starting pitcher. They need to go do something, kind of shake up the mojo in the clubhouse. Then the biggest movers of the week, you have the Angels, Brewers, and Nats all moving up, and then the Marlins taking a huge step back after their very bad week last week, and the White Sox and Rays moving down as well. But we'll jump into 30 through 21. You got 21 through 24 staying the same after mediocre weeks, 4-3, 3-3, 4-2. And then you jump on down, Nats and Rockies moving up 2 spots after winning weeks. And then those Pirates and White Sox are moving down after not the best of weeks. And even Oakland's moving up, even though I didn't change their logo. They're moving up to 1 spot. The Royals are moving down a spot after going 1-6 last week. But, I probably am going to leave it. And next week at this time, you're going to be seeing the A's in last and probably Kansas City in 29. 20 through 11. Now, this slide, I kind of could have changed it all everywhere. Teams could be different where on this slide. But, for one time, I think all these teams respectively where I see them are kind of right where I think they would be. I don't think the Twins, even after a 5-2 week, they'd play some easier teams. Played Seattle, who's been struggling, but at the same time, they just beat up on the White Sox, and it's not that good of a team to boast about. I know it is a divisional game, but they are starting to develop a lead in AL Central now with the Guardians falling under 500. The Yankees still playing some decent baseball. Judge coming back very, very soon. When he does, then this Yankees team, I think, will skyrocket into the top 10. Diamondbacks, a 2-4 week, kind of coasting right now. Really need to turn it up, and I think the deadline is going to help them. Those Angels, as I mentioned earlier, jump all the way up to 13 after their 5-1 week. Only 2 games above 500. As I mentioned, what are they going to do with the deadline? Giants and Reds stay pat. The Reds finally get back in business after last week just falling flat on their face out of the break. Then the Giants are kind of doing the same. They've lost 6 straight now after they lost to the Tigers earlier today. And then we'll jump all the way back down, just to keep you guys for a loop. Those Marlins, can't not talk about the Marlins out of the break. If you're really been struggling, falling kind of out of the wild card race. They're still right there, but they were 4 games ahead, and now they're not even in the playoffs as of right now. So they really need to turn it around here if they want to stay with it. And I think Yuri Perez might be a guy that gets called up, and they try to extend his innings, try to get the most out of him, without hurting him, because he hasn't pitched this many innings in his career. I think he's a guy that they're going to have to call up for a few starts, even a bullpen arm for 3 innings, possibly get the most out of him if they want to win some ball games. Then 10 through 1, we'll start at the bottom. The Phillies and Red Sox moving down a spot. Thanks to those Brewers moving up 5 spots, even after going 3-3 last week, they took it to the Braves. And I think if you can beat up on the Braves, you deserve to move up some. The NL Central is theirs right now. And I really don't see someone flipping with them. Maybe the Reds, I think the Reds are unproven where the Brewers have been proven to win the division and play consistent baseball in August and September. But I think the Brewers really want to compete in the playoffs. They got to add hitting. They always got to add hitting. It seems like it costs them every year. Their pitching gets there, but hitting just disappears in the playoffs. So they got to add something. The Blue Jays and Astros just missed the top 5 for another week, as Blue Jays had a 2-4 week, and the Astros had 4-2. And then those Tampa Bay Rays are still hanging on to a top 5 spot by a thread. I think if they do next week, I think if they struggle, I should say 1-6. I definitely forgot to do all the last week stuff. If they struggle, then I don't see this team staying in the top 5. At 4, the Rangers move up 1 because of those Rays falling. Same with the Dodgers, and they're not getting enough credit out west. I think that what they're doing is remarkable. Coming into the year, they were not the favorite to win the division for like the first time, and it feels like 10 years. And what are they doing? Winning the division by a good margin. And when they play the Diamondbacks, I think that's really what's going to decide this division. I think the Padres still have a chance to make the playoffs, but not win that division. And then the Orioles are at 2 after annihilating the Rays last week. It felt like, at least. They've pretty much said to me that they are going to be the best team in the AL East in this division. I don't think the Rays can compete with all that young talent and what they're going to do. And who knows, maybe that's a team to look out for Ohtani. Maybe they are the team that makes a jump for it. I don't know. They got lots of prospects to offer, lots of pieces that they could send there out west to get Ohtani for a rental, or maybe even sign long term. But he doesn't want to be on the East Coast. And then the Braves, best team in baseball since probably beginning of June. It's been no doubt the Braves, with Acuna just absolutely doing what he's doing. Austin Riley's week last week. It seems like a different player every week steps up for the Braves when they need him the most. And that's why they're the number 1 team in baseball. And oh yeah, they get Max Fried back here in a few weeks too. But that's going to be it for this week's power rankings. Make sure you guys come back next week to see where your favorite team ranks and if the Braves are still hanging on to the number 1 spot. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.